aprender de las experiencias de mujeres que han llegado a puestos directivos y los compartamos con todas aquellas que aspiramos a llegar. La verdad es que cuando empecé a hacer la presentación y bueno, pues mi percepción era que se había avanzado mucho en el mercado laboral, en el tema femenino, ¿no?, de la incorporación de las mujeres. Si echo la vista atrás y pienso en mi madre, que bueno, era muy raro que una mujer, una vez que tenía hijos, siguiese trabajando, era anecdótico, no algo natural como pasa ahora mismo, pues pensaba que las cosas habían cambiado mucho. E incluso cuando pienso en cuando se incorporó mi hermana al mercado laboral, que tiene 9 años más que yo, y cuando me he incorporado yo. También es cierto que quizá he sido una afortunada porque desde mi entorno familiar a los compañeros que he tenido trabajando, mis jefes, etcétera, siempre me han tratado como una igual. Pero también es verdad que cuando me puse a preparar y a buscar cifras acerca de cuál era la situación real laboral en España, me di cuenta de que quizá no habíamos avanzado tanto, y sobre todo en un mundo que está cambiando a un ritmo despiadado, ¿no? Si bien es cierto que el 60% de los universitarios en la actualidad son mujeres y entramos al mercado laboral en igualdad de condiciones, a medida que vamos escalando en los puestos directivos, el número desciende dramáticamente. En cargos funcionales hay un 19% de mujeres y en miembros del Consejo de Administración tan solo en torno al 5 y el 8%, con lo cual todavía queda mucho por andar. Mirando un poco por sectores, la verdad es que no hay ningún sector en el cual nos acerquemos ni de lejos al 50%, que tendría que ser lo normal. Pero también, quizá por mi deformación profesional, ¿no?, pues el sector financiero es el que me llamó más la atención. Solo un 12%, que son las mismas cifras que en el sector industrial. Y la verdad, creo que nosotras sabemos bastante más de ahorro y de inversión que de PVC o de materiales industriales, ¿no? Entonces, la verdad es que me chocó demasiado. En cuanto a áreas funcionales, pues sí que es cierto que tanto en marketing como recursos humanos, como legal, el número de mujeres aumenta. Pero también lo es que el porcentaje de personas que llegan a consejos de administración que está en negocio es más alto que en los puestos más, pues por así decirlo, de generales de la empresa. ¿Por qué necesitamos un cambio ante esta situación? Pues por supuesto es una cuestión de justicia social, pero no solo eso. Es un punto también que podemos considerar desde la rentabilidad de las empresas. Primero, el 51% de la población española es femenina. Ahí hay mucho talento que se está desperdiciando, ¿no? Ya lo decía Warren Buffett, que quizá uno de los secretos o uno de los componentes de su éxito era que tan solo tenía que competir con la mitad del talento. Él apoya fuertemente el papel de la mujer. Además, ya no es solo el hecho de tener mujeres, es el hecho de diversidad en general, de hombres, mujeres, distintos sexos, culturas, sectores, áreas de experiencia, porque todo eso enriquece y todo eso es lo que hace que las empresas sean más innovadoras, algo que precisamente pues lo hemos visto, ¿no?, con toda esta crisis, cómo nos hemos tenido que ir reinventando, pero además aumenta la eficiencia, la competitividad y la rentabilidad de las empresas, además de dar un valor añadido, ¿no? Pero es que además, y esto Nespresso lo sabe muy bien, el mayor mercado a nivel mundial no es China, somos las mujeres. El 80% de las decisiones de consumo las tomamos nosotras y aproximadamente el 50% de las decisiones de inversión. Con lo cual, desde un punto de vista de empresa también tiene sentido. Esta diapositiva que veis aquí es un poco controvertida, ¿no? Sí que es cierto que, por supuesto, no hay nadie que sea 100% de un tipo de características ni 100% del otro. Pero sí que es verdad que hay algunas que nos vemos reflejados quizá y en la tradicional definición de liderazgo. Por lo general, las mujeres se tiende a pensar que tienen un liderazgo más democrático, más basado en las relaciones humanas, somos más sociales y más abiertas al cambio y a escuchar. Los hombres, por otro lado, pues quizás son más agresivos, van más directos al grano, menos multitarea y se rigen un poco más por su ambición de llegar al poder que por la construcción de equipo. Ninguno de los dos extremos es el óptimo. El óptimo es el del equilibrio. Hay que llevar a cabo este cambio, ¿no? Pero ¿cómo lo tenemos que llevar a cabo? Pues esto tiene que ser algo educacional, pero además desde que somos pequeños. Yo, sinceramente, creo que no es cuestión de que los chicos jueguen con muñecas y las niñas jueguen con balones. No se trata de eso. Lo que se trata es que los niños tienen Indiana Jones y bomberos y las niñas que tengan pues a Melanie Griffith en Armas de Mujer o una doctora o un juez, y no que la muñeca que le pongan a una niña tenga un carrito de fregar y una tabla de planchar, ¿no? Porque al final este es el mensaje que va calando desde que somos pequeños. Desde el punto de vista de las empresas, pues esto tiene que ser nuevamente en la cultura organizativa y que sea una estrategia, sea algo, un componente estratégico para la misma. Que no haya un departamento de competitividad, de diversidad, que sea algo en lo cual estén involucrados desde las más altas esferas y se vaya educando, además de basar los méritos, o sea, basar el éxito en la meritocracia más que en las relaciones personales o en otras determinadas cosas, ¿no? Porque realmente de lo que nosotros queremos hablar aquí es que lo importante no es ser iguales, lo importante es hacer un buen equipo, ¿no? Entonces, por eso creemos que es por lo que es importante que cada vez haya más mujeres en los consejos de administración. Bueno, por mi parte esta es la introducción, muchas gracias a todas nuevamente y antes de dar comienzo a la charla que tendrá lugar por parte de Anne, Gloria, SIlvia e Isabel, vamos a ver un breve extracto del vídeo de Sheryl Sandberg de por qué hay tan pocas mujeres en los puestos directivos. Muchas gracias.
So for any of us in this room today, let's start out by admitting we're lucky. We don't live in the world our mothers lived in, our grandmothers lived in, where career choices for women were so limited. You're in the room today, most of us grew up in a world where we have basic civil rights. And interestingly, we still live in a world where some women don't have them. But all that aside, we still have a problem, a real problem. And that is this. Women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world. The numbers tell the story quite clearly. 109 heads of state, 9 are women. Of all the people in parliament in the world, 13% are women. In the corporate sector, women top C-level jobs, boards, tops out at 15-16%. Numbers have moved since 2002 and are going in the wrong direction. In the non-profit world, a world we sometimes think of as being led by more women at the top, 20%. We also have another problem, which is that women face harder choices between professional success and personal fulfillment. A recent study in the U.S. showed that of married senior managers, 2/3 of the married men had children, and only 1/3 of the married women had children. A couple of years ago, I was in New York. I was pitching a deal, and I was in one of those fancy New York private equity offices you can picture. And I'm in the meeting. It's about a 3-hour meeting. And 2 hours in, there's kind of needs to be that bio break. And everyone stands up. And the partner running the meeting looking really embarrassed. And I realized he doesn't know where the women's is in his office. So I start looking around for moving boxes, figuring they just moved in, but I don't see any. And so I said, so did you just move into this office? And he said, we've been here about a year. And I said, are you telling me the only woman to have pitched a deal in this office in a year? He looked at me and he said, yeah, or maybe you're the only one who has to go to the bathroom. So the question is, how are we going to fix this? How do we change these numbers at the top? How do we make this different? I want to start out by saying I talk about this, about keeping women in the workforce. I really think that's the answer. In the high-income part of our workforce, in the people who end up top Fortune 500 CEO jobs or the equivalent in other industries, the problem that I am convinced is that women are dropping out. Talk about this a lot, and they talk about things like flex time, mentoring, and programs companies should have to train women. I want to talk about none of that today, even though that's all really important. Today I want to focus on what we can do as individuals, What are the messages we need to tell ourselves? What are the messages we tell the women that work with for us? What are the messages we tell our daughters? At the outset, I want to be very clear that this speech comes with no judgments. I don't have the right answer. I don't even have it for myself. I left San Francisco, where I live, on Monday, and I was getting on the plane for this conference, and my daughter, who's, when I dropped her off at preschool, did that whole hugging the leg, crying, "Mommy, don't get on the plane." This is hard. I feel guilty sometimes. I know women, whether they're at home or whether they're in the workforce, that don't feel that time. So I'm saying that staying in the workforce is the right thing for everyone. My talk today is about what the messages are if you do want to stay in the workforce. And I think there are three. 1, sit at the table. 2, make your partner a real partner. 3, look at that. Don't leave before you leave. Number 1, sit at the table. Just a couple weeks ago on Facebook, we hosted a senior government official, and he came in to meet senior execs from Silicon Valley. And everyone kind of sat at the table. He had 2 women who were traveling with him who were pretty senior in his department. Kind of said, "Table, come on, sit at the table." And they sat on the side of the room. When I was in college, my senior year, I took a course called European Intellectual History. I love that kind of thing from college. I wish I could do that. And I took it with my roommate, Carrie, who was then a brilliant literary student and went on to be a brilliant literary scholar. And my brother, a guy at a polo playing pre-med who was a sophomore. The 3 of us take this class together. And then Carrie reads all the books in the original curriculum, goes to all the lectures. I read all the books in English and go to most of the lectures. My brother is kind of busy. He reads 1 book of 12 and goes to all the lectures, marches himself up to our room a couple days before the exam to get himself tutored. The 3 of us go to the dialectic. And I say, "God, I really wish I had really connected John Locke's theory of property to the philosophers that follow." And my brother says, "I got the top grade in class."
Yeah?
Well,
So we're stopping at that point. We're never going to hear the end of it. But now, that's what's called a cliffhanger. So now you're all going to have to go onto YouTube, find the TED Talk, and find out what happened next. Anyway, Anna, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for hosting this. This is the first in what we hope will be a number that we'll have across the continent here in Spain of a series that we started in the UK about 4 years ago, trying to connect women who are on boards with women who would like to be on a board, trying to connect women across silos through the public or the private sector, the corporate or the not-for-profit, and generally just trying to create better networking between women who have the potential to go on and show leadership, whether it's within a large company or at the top of a large company or any other kind of organization. Because one of my big frustrations, having been working now for almost 30 years, has been that the shape of the pyramid has got broader at the bottom in the time that I've been working. And we saw the statistics here in Spain. That's mirrored just about everywhere across the developed world. More than 50% of university graduates in most of the developed world now are women, and they're doing better and performing better. But the shape at the top hasn't really changed very much. And it doesn't matter whether you look at Spain or Italy or the US or Australia or the UK, it still looks pretty much the same. So what we're going to try and do over the next hour or so is explore some of the reasons for that, get some different perspectives about what we can do about it, and hopefully hear from some of you, either your suggestions or your thoughts about things that could be done that aren't being done. So that's our starting point. What I would like to do, just to set a scene for everybody, is just go round our panelists and ask them just to give a couple of opening remarks about who they are. I'm sure you know all of them, but nonetheless, a little bit of a background, who they are, what their career path has been, and giving a little bit of a flavor of where their perspective might be on some of the things we're going to go on to explore. So, Gloria, starting with you.
So my name, I don't think
it works magically. As soon as you start speaking, it works.
My name is Leal, and I work in Afro Banking. Actually, I studied business administration in ICADE. I was the first promotion of a E4, so I made my studies half in the UK and half here in Spain. And I started in audit and consultancy, and I ended up in finance. And I'm in banking now for 13 years, so 13.
Okay. SIlvia?
I'm SIlvia Leal. I work for the European Commission as an advisor for the deployment of the digital agenda. I also work for IE Business School as academic director for the digital innovation and information technology programs. And I'm also the writer of the book you have in your bags. And it's about why we are so profitable, because the female professionals are very profitable, and there are a lot of numbers about that. We'll talk about those later. And it's also about how to get the 100% of each person.
Okay. Isabel?
Well, my name is Isabel Linares. I was educated in England, got my law degree from Madrid University, from Complutense University, became a flight controller before joining IBM, where I worked for 17 years, both here in Spain and in IBM Europe in Paris. I was then headhunted, age 39, to join Sanitas, where I worked for 13 years. I was the deputy managing director, that's the number 2 job of the group, and also CEO of the nursing home business. In 2007, I was appointed CEO of Telemadrid, where I stayed for 4 years, and now I divide my time between consulting at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I run a public sector centre at the IE Business School.
Fantastic. And Anna, just give everybody a little bit of a colour for those who don't know you quite so well.
Well, it's true that most of you know me quite well, but so I don't have to even say my name. But I also studied business administration, and I've been working during my whole career in the asset management sector. First of all, as fixed income fund manager, then fund of fund manager, until I move up into the distribution part of the business, and I joined Aberdeen last year. And well, in between, I combined my professional career with some lecturing and co-heading a master's degree in the IEB.
Okay, so we've got a range. We've got real specialists, asset management specialists, finance specialists, and then we've got what we might call some more generalists. So, Isabel, coming back to you, we've got tiptoeing things going on here. Are we working okay? Are we everything? All the sound. The sound okay? The lights okay? Yes, yes. Everyone can hear at the back? Excellent. And you're listening, which is even better. I always feel that's such a good start to a panel discussion. So, Isabel, coming back to you. An interesting and incredibly varied career that you've had. Did you always want to be a career woman? Did you fall into it? Did you have a role model? How did you set off on this path?
I didn't have clarity about wanting a career until I was in my mid-30s. So initially I began working, I went along, and it's only in my mid-30s when I realized that I want to pursue a career into general management, when I moved from being a lawyer, to go into general management. And that's how it happened.
And what was the trigger for that? How did that switch happen from coasting a little bit to suddenly wanting a career?
I think it was so much more exciting. And then I realized that the higher up you are, the more you can do. And it is so much more rewarding. So I had no doubt about that.
And did you have, within your family environment, did your mother work, for example? Were you following a path that others in your family had gone before?
No, my mother did not work. Now, I am one of 8 sisters, so there's 8 girls in the family. There are no brothers. I don't have any brothers. Wow. And so we were educated to, my father always said that the best investment he could make was our education, and that he wanted us to be able to make a choice. He was very concerned about us, or girls at that time, and he was very much a visionary in the 60s, sending us to England, to boarding school, very much criticized for doing that. And he felt that that life has so many turns and that we needed to be able to choose, and if for whatever reason things didn't go right, you weren't married, you had to have, you had unlucky for whatever reasons, you had the possibility of your education and making a life of your own. What I did have clarity on is I always wanted to be independent economically. That was really my drive. My drive was to be independent economically. I didn't want to have to depend on anyone. I wanted to have my own.
Everyone nodding here. Yeah. So you're nodding on that. Just to what you said. Did you have a role model? What was the driver for you?
My driver. I had two brothers, and my mom said we should be treated equally. And the truth is that I was more interested in studying, so the three of us got their career, but I got 3 MBAs. So they decided to support me. And I was very lucky. I didn't think of becoming an IT professional, and I got into the market. I got a lot of support from men, and my history is about luck, about being very lucky. I didn't choose.
Do you think we should have to rely on luck for our careers?
I think we need and we should work our luck. That's the point. And we have to be very alert if the luck comes to use it. But I think we should rely on our luck. Yeah.
Gloria, you were nodding as well on that point about independence.
Yes, I think my case is very similar. I think my father also educated me like a man. I mean, in the sense that he gave me the same opportunities as my brother. I don't have 8 sisters, just 1 brother. So, but anyway, and he gave me the same education, and he thought exactly the same. My inheritance is my education, so you have to take advantage of it. And he always taught me that it was very important for me. If I wanted to be free, if you want to be free, you have to be independent. Otherwise, someone else is taking the decisions for you. So this is a driver for me. That has been a very important driver for me.
That's really interesting, because I've done a number of these panels before, and that's the first time that independence point has specifically come out. Actually, I'm wondering, should we move a little closer together? I think we feel a bit distant here. Didn't mean to smash the glasses, but there we go. That wasn't so good. Right, while we're faffing around with the chairs, here's a question for the audience. This point on independence, for how many of you, can you put your hands up, was independence the driver? Hand right up. Yeah, lots of hands going up. That's really interesting. So that's maybe... Have we got broken glass on the stage?
No, it's fine. The problem is the light that is on my head.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want some sunglasses? You're in Spain. It's beautiful and sunny. You should be used to bright light.
This is too sunny. No. I can't handle it.
Can we turn the projector off a little bit? Hey, we're getting good at this technical stuff.
We are friends again.
By the time we finish, it'll be immaculate. Okay, right, Gloria, staying with you for a second. There's a whole debate on the back of Sheryl Sandberg's first TED Talk. There was a whole debate that was opened up on the back of it, which was a really interesting one, which was, to what extent do you have to fix the women versus fix the environment? I.e., to what extent is it about women having to lean in, or the extent to which it's about an environment which actually is making it harder for women because of their choices than it needs to be? So, Gloria, any reflections on that?
I think there is still a lot of cultural resistance to women getting to the top. I mean, it's a man's world, it has been a man's world, and you can see that in the organizations, actually. So many times people are not aware of the sacrifices a woman has to make. So in many organizations, they assume that if you want to get to the top, you need to be available at any time, anywhere. And for a woman that doesn't want to give up on being a mother, having a family, that is very, very hard, okay? So, yes.
Do you think technology has made it easier or harder?
Technology has made it easier. Actually, at Bankinter we have, we can work at home many times, not all the time, but they make it easy, and you're not required to be on site all the time, which is very, very important. And technology makes it easier, obviously. But you have to travel, so it's not always very easy if you don't want to give up on a family. And I think companies and society has to change a little bit.
Maybe we just need to choose different partners who do more of the home stuff.
Also, yes. Also, yes.
Sylvia, what do you think?
I have a lot of information about the ICT world, and I think we can use it in the rest of the fields. Women think that this kind of positions sometimes are too isolated and not worthwhile. It's too hard to get there, and also sometimes it's even boring.
Boring?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, there's some research that says it's boring. It's not so fantastic as you can see in the films. So I think we have a lot of responsibility, and in this sense, I do think we can have the solution.
So did your research on ICT, was that just in Spain or was that internationally?
It's the information coming from the European Commission.
So it's internationally?
Yeah, but also in the book you can read this, because I did the research also here in Spain. And I get the same results. Isolation, boring and not worthwhile.
Gosh, so we live on the land. And Isabel, you've experience of more than one culture. So you think that within Spain there's a particular angle to this? Or
Well, I think it comes out in the research that we did in PwC 2 years ago when we decided to research into women directives, women executives in Spain. The single most important barrier that was put forward by women and men was working hours. That's the main issue here in this country. We have the most absurd working hours. We work 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and it is something that we have to decide to change. And companies and corporations, some of them timidly, some of them less timidly, but that is the differentiator, I think, in Spain in respect to other countries.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. So, Anna, when you're lucky quite a bit younger than I am. My generation, I suppose, in the UK, Maggie Thatcher, switched on all the time, hard-edged, that was kind of our training ground for the path of successful female leadership. We talk about the millennials having a bit of shift in priorities. Do you see that coming through with younger women like yourself?
At least in my case, I see it. It's true, as Isabel mentioned, that it is the long, never-endless schedule of hours, and it comes from men, because men tend to work because they are not so efficient. I'm happy to say. I'm sorry. But
there were a couple of men in the front row here who winced.
I'm sorry. No. They have many other, but it's true that we are much more multitask, and we can be able to do things faster. But and I also sorry to mention, but it is a fact. It's a different gender difference. No, but it's true that, and I was talking about it before the meeting started, that many women in the past tend to be very tough in their role positions, and sometimes adapting a role that didn't fit with the real character when they were out of their professional environment. And I also think that it was because, well, some of the people here mentioned as well, that they had to fight too much. And in that sense, I consider that in our generation, all of you have done a lot to us, good work. So for me, it is not a question of being anyone but myself, both in my professional and my personal career. And for me, that's the main difference.
Okay. So one thing that I think has changed, and not for the better, over the last 25, 30 years, has been around the way women are portrayed in the media. And actually social media, in some respects, has made it worse, not better. Because what you've seen in some types of social media, sometimes on Facebook, sometimes on Twitter, has been almost misogyny. Things that were culturally not acceptable to say face-to-face or to say on television or even to print in a newspaper were suddenly given a platform through social media that they didn't have before. I mean, Isabel, you worked in the media at one stage. How do you see it's changed, and does that echo with you, what I've just said?
Absolutely, absolutely. The media has a role to play in helping women, in portraying women as a reflection of society. And they don't always do that. I think there are two ways they can do that. One is in fiction. And Spain at the moment is producing an awful lot of fiction. And they can start portraying women in their fiction, executive women, equal opportunities, and with the right characteristics. That's one area where that can be done. And the second is calling on experts. A very small amount of experts that are called are women. You see it, and when they do call it, it's either someone in the nursing or in the teaching. But when they call on an expert, they are men. They're not women. What have we done on this front? We have set forward. We have set up a platform of expert women, Plataforma de Mujeres Expertas. We've only just announced it a couple of months ago. I will send you all the link if you're interested. And that is an agreement we have reached with a number of newspapers and with the Association of Journalists and with television and with the media in general, by which, if they want an expert, here they have an awful lot of them. Because what they say is, we don't call experts, and I know from my time in Telemadrid when I kept on saying, call so-and-so, you're trying to get women in to be called upon on a daily basis in the news for whatever reason, and they would say, there aren't any. What do you mean there aren't any? There are masses of them. So we have set up this platform, and I think it is already changing the number of experts that the media calls, and they can go in there, and if they want an expert on anything, it's in there. Somebody who's
You've got a room full of them here.
A room full of experts. So please, and it's very rigorous. I'll give you the. You can send them to all of them.
Do you provide training for them? Do you provide media training?
We provide media training. You have to pass a committee, so you have to be an expert on something, and then you have to commit to when you're called. You have to go. You can't say, oh no, I can't go on television, I can't go because I have to go to the hairdresser. No, you have to go. You have to.
I've been involved in something quite similar in the UK, because I used to say to our press department, I'll do one interview a year. That was what. And then I realised actually that women say no much more often than men do. This is something you'll hear from journalists a lot. I don't know if journalists in the room will echo that. But a woman is more likely to say no to an interview request than a man is. Certainly that's what I've always been told in the UK. And there's safety in numbers, ladies. That's one of the things that I say. The more women there are speaking up and being experts, the less exposed you feel about it. So that's a really good, helpful, practical point to come out of this. That's very, very good. I want to turn to another slightly controversial subject on which people may have strong views. A very live debate in a lot of areas at the moment, bless you, about quotas versus targets. So I'm going to ask you a question, audience, but I'll just give you a moment to think about it. Hands up if you are in favour of legally binding quotas. Yes, we have one hand here. Just keep it up, two. Yes, no safety in numbers, keep those hands up. Nobody else tempted? Oh, three. Yes, you see, this is why I always say think about it. Put all three hands up. It's one of these questions. It's like, have you ever had an affair? Nobody ever puts their hands up first of all, and then, but after a while, the hands. Not that I ever asked that question, and I'm not going to do it. So, hands up, who's in favour of targets rather than quotas? Targets. Okay, and the rest of you are really, really wishy-washy. You don't have an opinion. What do you make of that? experience?
Well, I reckon that we come from far away and there is a lot of work to do, but I still don't feel very comfortable with quotas because discrimination, whether positive or negative, is always bad, I think. And because there will always be the doubt over the woman whether she's there because she merited or not. So I understand maybe just by information and by targets we won't get very far, but I don't feel very comfortable with quotas. No.
Sylvia?
I don't like quotas, I don't like targets. Quotas has a negative side that is very dangerous. You are there because of the quotas. What happens with the targets? That they are smoke. Yeah. They say, a target, okay, it's fine, but why should I do it? Okay? Yeah. So I agree with her. We need to do something to explain everyone why women should be in the companies, and the reasons is always about the same. It's about money. This is a research coming from the European Commission that proved that 49% of the financial result can be explained by the female talent. And it's empirical evidence. So should female professionals be in the organizations? Yes, of course. Why? Because of the social requirements, no? Because they are profitable. It's about money. This is business. Of course, because this is a social problem. We deserve to be in the organizations, but if we are not there, the talent is not being used, and it's about money.
Okay.
And if someone wants the report, please send me a mail, and you will read it. It's also in the book.
You're also getting all this homework. You thought you were signing up for a bit of a chat and then a nice drink, and we're making you work. Isabel, what's your view? Quotas
but let me
versus targets.
refute what you're saying, because if that was so obvious, I mean, you know, companies, they want their profits to go up. So if this was so obvious, why would they not hire more women? Why would they not appoint more women? And they are not doing it. The only way we're going to get more women in those top jobs is through quotas. I am absolutely sure of it. There is no other way. Quotas can be, they are controversial. Quotas are controversial. But they have more upsides at this point in time than downsides. If we don't get quotas in this country, the voluntary targets won't work. Our current law, La Ley de Igualdad, the Equality Law 2007, fixes targets. It says that companies, for listed companies, that companies should endeavor, should try to have 40% women on their boards. 2015 is the deadline. What do we have? 16% at this point in time. We are not a nation, we are not a country that does things if it is not mandatory. We do it if it is mandatory. If it is not mandatory, we don't do it. And I believe in quotas, and I think it is something probably temporary. It will probably be for a number of years, and then when we have that balance, we can take it off again. But I am all for quotas. We did a bit of work on projecting the results of where we are, and took them into we projected into the future, and equality, or parity rather, understood by 40% women, 60% men, didn't happen until the year 2057.
Wow.
Okay? 2057. So, you know, if you have daughters, if you
43 years.
have sisters, the only way is quotas. And thankfully, even if you don't believe in it, it will happen. Quotas will be a reality, I figure, around 2020, but they will be a reality.
So Anna, let's give you a really nasty question. So in 15 years' time, you're sitting around the boardroom of a large corporate entity, Bankinter, let's say. You're a director of Bankinter.
I hope to keep on working forever.
Would you mind? Would you mind? Thank you. You'll be doing this in addition to your executive job, running Aberdeen, obviously. Would you mind if you were sitting in that room because of a quota, rather than because you got there without a quota?
I have to say that I have changed my mind during years because I was completely against quotas. I have to say, because I thought, as Gloria mentioned, it is not a question of being there because you have to be, but because of what we are worthwhile and what the added value that we can give. But along the years, I have slightly changed my mind, and I'm more into Isabel's point of view, because I also consider that at some point there has to be someone who's there to represent the minority part of the society, and
even if it's actually a majority.
Yeah, or even if it's actually a majority, but it is not just a question of gender, but also of many other aspects that makes us different. And somehow it is also, I think, why we are so against quotas is because we don't trust ourselves. I mean, if I had to be a quota, I would be very happy to be appointed as the representative of women, because I know that I'm capable enough to show if it was a blinded CV. I don't mind, because, and somehow if they appointed me, it was because I would be someone that was going to be fighting for them. And no matter the time and the first feeling, I would show with my effort and with my willingness to do things that I'm there because I deserve it. So, nasty question, but...
But I think it's interesting because it's like Sheryl Sandberg said, I mean, you can't sit at the table if you're not in the room. And the first thing, I think, is to get more women into the room. And then, you know, then we can... But actually, in a way, I think, I mean, Spain may be a little different. I think, you know, in the main, this target versus quota debate has become something of a semantical argument when there is a good direction of travel, which you are seeing in some countries in Europe now. Spain may be the laggard in that, but you are beginning to see movement in some of the others. But on a positive note, so can you think, Gloria, can you think of examples? You work in a very female-led bank, actually. Can you think of concrete examples that have worked in your experience in the workplace?
Of women?
To encourage more women to stay at it and rise up through the management structure?
Well, I think first women have to want to take the responsibility. That is very important. I mean, many women just don't want. So women have to want to get there and then find the right environment. And I think it is there where it is very important, the leadership. So who is your boss? How flexible and how much he understands your problems, or she. It was always a he in my case, so anyway. And it's also the policy of the company to make compatible family life and professional life, because many women give up when they decide to be mothers. Because they find it very difficult to make it compatible. So I think it's very important. And another thing is that some women actually stop their career. You don't have to be afraid to stop your career for a couple of years. You can take on afterwards. So that is also something that I actually stopped for 2 or 3 years. And you just, you know, there is no problem with that. You just have to be sure that that's what you want to do and take it with strength and willingness afterwards.
Okay. And Silvia, what have you found that works, that has worked?
I think you have to be good, and you have to be very efficient. Why good? If you can prove that a woman can do it very well, you will get the support. Right now, in the ICT field, only 20% of the professionals are women. However, I am the speaker of the ICT professionals in Spain. Why? Because I prove I can do it, and they say, okay, Silvia, we like how you do it, because you do something different and you put passion. Okay, so you have to be good and you have to put your passion there. And the second one is about efficiency. And in my case, I have 2 kids. One is 2 years old, the other one is 3 years old. And I am doing a lot of things. Why? Because I'm very efficient. I focus, and when I have to stop because I want to play with them, I stop and I start working again when they go to bed. So you have to be efficient and organize your life so you can do everything in the best way. So these would be my two advices for them.
See, it's interesting, and I echo that, because I've always said I don't run a home, I run a military operation, because you have to be like that. But that does touch on something else, and it goes back to fix the women, fix the environment. So again, this is actually saying the women have to adapt themselves to work to this environment. Isabella, should we be thinking more about thinking of diversity not as a representative set of statistics, but actually about how we make an environment that is more inclusive of a wider variety of norms? And how can we do that? How can we think of it not as a diversity issue, but as an inclusion issue, making an environment that is more inclusive?
That's the key, isn't it? How can we make our workplace more inclusive to women? We do things differently, we work differently, we juggle families and work, and there's no doubt that we have to try and get our partners to be real partners. That's one thing, okay? So that's and we have to. And at the moment, the government is running a very, very strong campaign on television, on radio, saying get your partner to be a real partner, por la corresponsabilización, no? Which I think is a horrible word, and I don't know if many people know what it means. But it means
you have to tell it to me. I don't.
It's co-responsibility.
Co-responsibility. But they've gone to a technical word instead of saying it. Getting your partner to be a real partner. Helping if you're helping at home, and you have. But I think it is all about changing the culture at the office, trying to make things more flexible, not allowing meetings to be held after a certain hour. So 5 o'clock might be the hour, so you don't have meetings after 5 o'clock. Putting the lights out, like they've done in many companies. They put the lights out at 7 o'clock so that you can't work any longer. Technology is a huge enabler. And here we are trying to adapt, constantly trying to adapt women to this male cultural environment. And I think it's about time we start changing that workplace environment to our needs and leadering, trying to get
Because it's an interesting point, because it's certainly one of the things I see now when our pan-European equity team, for example, seems to have had a baby epidemic. And our pan-European equity team is majority male. They're much less likely now to be seen at the desk after 7 o'clock at night, because they do go home and do bath time. Now, when I was 20-something, no, that just didn't happen. Nobody left to go home and do bath time. Now, and at your city, so we've all got kids. We've all done the kind of juggle thing, and kind of, we're still here to tell the tale, which is good. Is it frustrating for you always to be defined as within, oh, well, there must be this female issue around family? Because you don't have kids. You're a career professional. You're going through. Is that an annoyance to you?
Yeah, so well, and besides, even more, I've been married for 5 years, so everybody's putting a lot of pressure in my neck, asking whether, and first of all, of course, I'm very, right now I'm very into my professional career, but it is not that the question why I'm not having kids right now. I don't know if I will have them or not, but it will be my decision, and if I'm pretty sure that if I decide to have kids, I will keep on progressing, or hopefully I will do my best to progress on my professional career. But on the other hand, it is also something for me. I don't have kids, but I do have a family and I do have a personal life. And sometimes, since I don't have kids, people tend to think that I don't have anything else. No, I have a lot of things. I have my family as well. First of all, I have my husband, but also my parents, my brothers, my sisters, and I also want to enjoy from my personal life a pure balanced life. Is a mixture between the two of them, so it is not fair neither to be considered as the never-ending hours in the office because you don't have kids. You know, that I had the right to decide whether I want to have them or not, and not depending on nor my professional career nor my personal. It will be just personal.
I mean, it's quite an interesting point because I have quite a number of girlfriends who are my age or a little bit older in London and other parts of financial services world who don't have children and never wanted children or for whatever reason don't have children. And one of their complaints is that it used to be the woman would get maternity leave and now the dads get paternity leave. And you don't get anything if you're a woman or a man for that matter without children. You never get those weeks off, months off or whatever. And I thought that was an interesting observation in terms about changing the environment. Maybe if everybody had some kind of sabbatical right, whether it was a parental leave or just a home life leave, again, maybe that would make the environment more family friendly because everybody would see that the world doesn't come to an end if you go off in a few months maternity or paternity leave. Do you have paternity leave here in Spain?
Yes. 4 months.
How many?
4 months.
4 months, that's really good. When I started work in the UK, it was 2 days paternity leave. 2 days.
But if I may interrupt, it would also, I completely agree because see, it would also help to people who really want to study something else or to diversify their career, and it would allow also other people who don't decide to have children or can't or whatever, to also try to be more open to different sectors and activities.
And there was a little bustle of activity there. I don't know if that means somebody has got a really burning and urgent question that they would like to ask at this point. But we will take some questions. So if there is a question anyone would like to ask, now would be a good moment. Otherwise, think of your questions, because I won't allow anybody to go for a drink until you've asked a question. So get thinking about those questions. Does anyone have a question now? Oh yes, we do. Here, okay.
Hi, my name is Helena, and I have a publishing company. I founded it myself, and a startup, which is a